Eyes on the sparrow, and I know He watches me.
Hi friends. Today I want to share with you some thoughts about parenting and the different stages of parenting that we go through as our kids grow. Those of you who know me know that I have 3 sons that I've raised, and one I'm still in the process of raising. My 2 oldest boys are out on their own. We still have one at home in his later high school years. And I just want to tell you, those of you that have little ones, your role as a parent and the approach to parenting, it changes. It changes as they grow older. I've learned this the hard way, that if I don't adjust my parenting, then it strains the relationship. And so I feel like it's really necessary to adjust as they grow. So I'm going to share with you my philosophy of parenting and what I've found has helped. Now, are my boys perfect? No, they aren't. They're still trying to figure life out. They still make mistakes. They're by far perfect. But I can say this, with all 3 boys, I have a good relationship with them. We are close, and we have deep conversations about life and how to do life, and they will come to me and ask for advice or listen along the way. So that means a lot to me, that we have this open communication that happens, and I want to be a person that can speak life into their lives. So I'm really grateful for that. I've always been a parent that has allowed my boys to take risks, probably more so than than many of my friends even. I don't know if it's because I've had boys. I know when they're little, like it looked like I let them climb, I taught them how to climb trees, and I let them take risks, and I let them jump from high places and learn how to fall well. And I can honestly say we never went to the emergency room because of broken arms or I'm really grateful for that. And if you know my boys, they all love to climb, and so we tend to be on the adventurous end, but they are risk takers. And I think that's carried over into some other areas of my parenting too, that I have turned over decision making to them often. But let me get on with this and say that one day when I was trying to sort through my role as a parent, and it was at a time that my boys, my older ones, were stepping out on their own. Really hard. Isn't that hard when they leave for college? They leave your home, and just thinking about my role and what it is in their life. And this illustration came to mind, and this illustration has helped me keep my place, refrain from saying too much, and to understand my role. So let's just say that our parenting is like teaching our kids how to fly an airplane. That those early years, we are teaching them the manual on how to fly. We are establishing guidelines. We are setting boundaries. We are teaching them right and wrong, the way to live. My guidebook is God's Word. That's how our family has chosen to believe. What we believe that's truth, and so that is my guidebook. And so I've been teaching my sons right from wrong based on what God's Word says. But very, very important that when I say there's going to be consequences, that I follow through with consequences. Otherwise, I'm lying to them. If I just threaten and say, if you do that again, you're going to get a spanking, or if you do that again, you're going to be, in timeout, and I don't, then I'm just lying to them. And they don't know where boundaries are. It makes it very hard for them. So being very consistent, very loving in discipline, but teaching them right from wrong. It's exhausting work. Anybody who has toddlers, elementary age, it can be very difficult work, but it's essential. And you're having conversations as they get older and teaching them this is what's right, this is what's wrong. You are teaching them the flying manual. And then I would say by the time that they maybe start going into middle school years, that pre-teenage years, then it's time to let them start flying. But you are in the pilot seat, they are in the co-pilot seat, and you are teaching them more about how to fly, how to live life. Make sure you spend time with your kids. Man, they need that time. Having fun, but also just, God's word says that we teach them as we walk in the way. You got to be walking. You need to be spending time. You need to be doing fun things together. But it also means, like, a lot of times it ends up being late night talks, doesn't it? Doesn't it seem like they want to talk when you're exhausted and tired and it's late? All of a sudden they start opening up. But having these conversations about life and how it works, and maybe even mistakes that you've made, or if there's people that you come across that are doing life well, talking about that, or maybe folks that you see making poor decisions and the consequences that come from it, or that television show or movie that you watch that isn't realistic, like, and talking about these things. And so that is the example of, you're in the airplane, you are the pilot, they're the co-pilot, and you are actually flying this plane and showing them how it's done. And then there's times that you turn over the flying to them. You let them have short periods of time that they are making more decisions, is what I mean by that. Letting them make more decisions for themselves. Learning how to wake up on their own. Managing their homework and how they're going to do that. And even letting them fail. Middle school is a great time to let them fail some tests. Let them live it out, because the consequences to that only stops in middle school, I think. And so I had some real battles with my boys at that time, and I had to be like, okay, this is your decision, because when you start getting into those power struggles, a lot of times it just shuts down communication. Sometimes you have to, but if it's happening all the time, I would say you need to back off and let them make some decisions on their own. Again, I'm not saying you let them do things that are immoral or illegal, but letting them make more decisions. Even like cleaning their room. There's a point where you let them decide, are they going to be slobs or are they not going to be slobs? And let them deal with the consequences. After you've taught them how to, then let them fly and see if they're going to do it. So let them have the consequences of being disorganized. They can't find the paper, they can't do whatever, But again, you have to teach them what to do first. And this is time too, we're teaching them how to get along with each other. We're teaching them how to resolve conflict with their brothers and sisters. We're teaching them how to do an apology. All of those things, relational skills are happening, and you turn it over to them. And hopefully they're coming to you and talking about their friendships at school. And you're asking questions, like how is it going at school? Or how is your relationship with your best friend? But letting them navigate it, but you're close by to help step in. And then there comes that time in their teen years that you let them fly the plane, and you're the co-pilot. You let them make more decisions. I think when my middle son, maybe when he was in 11th grade, I asked him, son, how do you want me to parent you? And he said, I want to make my decisions. And I said, okay, your decisions, your consequences, right? He said, yeah. And so I did. I let him navigate his life, but I was close by. And so I was there when it didn't work. I was there when he hit the wall, and help untangle it and talk it through and help him, choose to do some different things, or let him see his options. And so very hard to let go of that. But by those high school years, you are turning it over more and more. And I would say by their upper high school years, they should be navigating much of their life and the decisions for their life. This is my philosophy. You may not agree with me, but this is what has worked well for us. I didn't make my kids go to college or, like their future. We just talked about things like, what are the options? Let's think about this. Do you want to be in debt? Do you not want to? Do you want to go out of state? Or is it, it was on them, and let them make decisions. And even things that they were involved in, extracurricular things, they made the decisions. And even, we ran into this issue with one of our boys. He did not want to go to church anymore. Some of you may face that. I feel like I should talk about this. I made him go because that was a rule in our home. And it was hard. He just seemed to get more and more hardened. And so I went to the Lord. And again, let me encourage you. That's the beautiful part. When you have the Lord helping you parent, He promises to give you wisdom. And so I'm just giving ideas and things that have worked for me. But ultimately, you have to go to the Lord and ask Him, what do I do for this particular child? This is your child. I've said that to the Lord so many times. Okay, this is your kid. You put me here to help parent him, but you are ultimately the parent, Lord. What am I supposed to do? And I tell you what, every time God would give insight or help. Well, in this situation with my son, that he told me, he said, Mom, I'm not tired of God. I'm just tired of church. And the more you make me go, it's just the more of a wall is going up. And prayed about it. And for us, God told us to bring it home. And we started doing church at home, or we did church on the trail. We called it trail church, adventure church. We would go kayaking and stop and do devotions, or we would go on hiking and then stop and do devotions. And I wouldn't trade that time for anything. Those were really precious, precious times. And what it did is it allowed us to have really personal, intimate conversations with stuff that our boys were going through. And it's what was needed at the time. I'm not saying that's what everybody needs to do, but it's how God instructed us and what He told us to do. So, high school years, they're making more of these decisions on their own and dealing with the consequences of them. But I think it's important to sit down and talk to them too when they're making decisions about potential consequences. But here's a secret I've learned. Frame things in a question. Don't tell them what to do, because they just don't want to. If you tell them, it just makes it, they would rather do the opposite. But ask it as a question. For instance, I still have a high schooler. And, oh man, I want to micromanage him so bad. I want to micromanage him how he cleans his room. I want to micromanage how he does his homework, if he does his homework, and just be on him. And I can't. But instead, I can say, well, how are things going? Are you happy with your homework? How you're managing it? Is that good? I do know his grades. I can check those. And he has asked me to please help me, if you see that I've missed something, he wants that, but I'm trying to let him manage that. When it comes to them making the decisions, I've done it by asking questions. And now comes the hardest part, is when they move out. Oh, it's hard, isn't it? You've spent 18 years pouring your life into them, and so much of your energy and time is put into parenting, and then they're out from under your wing. And the parenting doesn't stop. It just shifts. And so now you're no longer in the airplane. You are in the command tower, right? They're flying the airplane on their own. And it's up to them if they're going to contact us. It's hard to stay quiet. But they have to make these decisions. And I've watched some parents who still try to control their young adults. It doesn't go well. What happens is, I think, is just, especially if you haven't allowed them to make these choices even in their high school years, it just ends up rebellion. And then when they're on their own, the rebellion can go to an extreme when they haven't been able to try anything on their own and even fail, have the freedom to fail. and it shuts down communication. But letting them make these decisions, even if they're not the decisions you would make, and just loving them through it, not lecturing them, but being available, it keeps communication open. But again, if I've told my boys, if I see that you're heading to where you're going to crash, we're going to have conversations. And they've been open to that. Again, here's the key. Ask for permission. Say, son or daughter, can we talk about something? Can I share something from my perspective? Can I help you think through maybe future steps of what this could lead to? If they say no, then don't. But if they're like, yeah, okay, I haven't thought about that, and have those conversations. And thankfully with my sons, that's worked out really well, and they've thanked me even for those conversations, like, wow, Mom, thanks, I never thought of what this could lead to. Thank you for taking time to explain this to me and helping me think it through. So this is what's working for me, what has worked and what's working for me. Have I done it perfectly? No. But I find when I'm doing this with my sons and we're getting into these power struggles, especially as if they're teenagers, that my parenting needs to shift. God has put it in them as they grow to want more independence. And remember, that's our goal. Our goal is to help our kids fly on their own. Our goal is that they can be independent of us. So we have to turn that over bit by bit. We're turning over control, is what it is. And something that will help is to realize that your self-worth is not based on what your kids do. That's the same as when they're little, to when they're middle school, to when they're in high school, to when they're on their own. That your self-worth and your value as a person is not hinged on decisions that your children make. And I think that allows you to have more freedom then to allow them to fail. And allow them to fail early on so you can be there to help pick up the pieces. And then you're going to teach them how to pick up the pieces on their own and to deal with those consequences. But the main thing, I think it's just so important to keep the lines of communication open. Let them know that you love them, even if they're living in a lifestyle that wouldn't be what you would choose for them. Even if they're with people that you wouldn't choose for them, you love them. And you tell them, I'm always here for you. And let them hammer out this journey of their own and do it their way. But in the meantime, you pray. Pray, pray, pray. And as young adults, that's our influence in them, is our prayers for them, is that we intercede for them. And it does make a difference. I want to give you encouragement with that. Our prayers do make a difference. So I hope this has been encouraging and helpful. And I just want to encourage you, go to the Lord, ask Him to give you wisdom on how to parent the child, the children individually as that He's given you. And He promises to give us wisdom when we go to Him and ask Him. Thanks for joining me.